Alright, hello world. Welcome back to building a roguelike in C. We had a stream earlier this morning that was, we got a lot of solid work done on our entity component system. So we're going to continue building out the entity component system that we started. And then hopefully also progress a little bit further and get into at least starting our simple dungeon level generator. So let's dive in. If you are interested in following along at home, the GitHub repo is linked right above my face here. You can grab the latest source code and play along at home. So now the other thing is, when I ended the stream this morning, we were having a strange error. Our entity component system seemed to be working kind of. So let's just let's fix that problem before moving on. I was looking at it a little bit off stream and I managed to figure out what the problem is, but I'd like to walk you through it because it's one of those fun pointer errors that happen in C if you're not careful. So let me bring up here, build, and so we can see what the problem we were having is. Okay, so as you can see, we are rendering our player avatar, which is the @ symbol. We're rendering that in the, it's got the correct glyph, it's got the correct color, it is not in the correct place. And the same goes for the wall entity, which is the hash mark next to it. It's, again, right glyph, right color, wrong place. So in looking at the code, let's close this guy up for time. I had some suspicions that it was in our add component to game object function, and I was staring at it on stream, and for whatever reason I just wasn't seeing it. So the problem, this part up here is all correct, where we're initializing our position component and we're copying the values in. The problem is in this line right here. So what we're doing is our game object has a components array, and the components array it's a fixed size array, but each item in that array is supposed to be a pointer. And what we are doing here is assigning the address of position, and my mistaken assumption, or whatever reason, I was thinking pos was the actual struct instead of a pointer to that struct. So what we're doing here is we are giving the address of our pointer instead of the address. We really should just be giving it the pointer itself, because that's what we're interested in. We do the same thing down here in our visibility initialization code. So if we save that, and we bring back our terminal and do a build, and we do a run, you can see, all right, now everything is in the right place, and it's got the right color, and well, we still have an issue with moving, but we've got things in the right position. So let's close up the terminal again. And look at our code. So it looks like it's constantly getting reset. Oh, and so the reason for that is when I added, when we were trying to figure out what was going on, I added this nice little debug code here that basically reinitializes it as soon as the loop starts each time. So let's get rid of that. It's not necessary. Hey Gun Games, thanks for the follow. I appreciate it. Thanks for joining me on our quest to build a roguelike. Another SDL2 user on Twitch. Yes, SDL2 is excellent. I'm using it primarily to achieve cross-platform display, audio handling, and also input handling. Because I really don't want to, I'm not using all of the powers of SDL. Really, I'm just using it to set up a chunk of pixel memory that I'm then rendering into with a console library that I wrote to basically treat that block of pixels as a console, and then I'm, drawing each pixel into a texture and having SDL put the texture out. Using standard bool? Yes, I am. Why do you ask? Distracted. Hold on. Let's see. So let's just make sure that our game works as expected. And now you can see we are no longer being happens. So the next item that we need to figure out, you see, I'm just able to walk right through this wall. So see, according to the title, I have a Boolean value. So yeah, I'm using standard bool. Yeah, some people do define true as 1 and false as 0, but the standard bool, it's actually it's standard C now. I believe it's C11. They did introduce a Boolean type into C via standard bool. So I'm able to walk through the wall, which is an excellent segue to the next chunk of code that we need to write, which is to fill out the entity code, or sorry, the component code for our physical component, which will contain properties indicating that the object has a physical presence in the world and can either block movement or block sight or both. And walls are good at blocking movement and sight. So what we're going to do is we're setting up our different things. SDL2 with C++. Yeah, I mean, SDL2 is flexible enough that you can hit it from C, you can hit it from C++. I believe there's wrappers for several other languages. So we've got our wall, and we've got our player. So we should add a physical component to each of those. We don't want things to walk through our player, and we don't want anything to be able to walk through walls. unless we do at some point in the future have some kind of magical creature. Python bindings, yeah. Pygame would be a decent option. There's also, well, if you're building a roguelike, there's an excellent tutorial for building a basic roguelike in Python. If you Google Python lib tcod tutorial, it'll point you at a good tutorial for building a classic roguelike using Python and libtcod, and I believe that libtcod uses SDL. I believe it's built on SDL. I could be wrong. All right, so let's write the code that uses our component, and then we can figure out what our component needs to look like. So we will do, we'll define a physical. Object and struct, and so it takes 3 parameters. It's going to take your player ID, again, just like all the rest of our components. And it's going to take 2 bools, blocks movement and blocks sight. So in the case of a player, we definitely want blocks movement, things moving through our player. And I think for, at this point, we're going to just say that it also player blocks sight. And go ahead and add component to our game object. So we're going to do player, and this is going to be our comp physical. It's called comp physical, and we're going to pass it to our physical struct. Now we're going to do the same thing for the wall. Twitch needs more C, C++ streamers. I agree. You know, there's a lot of C# and Unity programmers running around. And that's part of the reason that I started this stream, because I think it's important that we don't lose the ability to work at lower levels of code. You know, I've been doing this for a lot of years, and I work primarily in higher level languages these days. I write mobile code. I write stuff for iOS and Android. But I have written a ton of C++ and some C and some assembly and all of that, and it definitely helps to at least have the exposure at that level, so it'll make you a better high-level programmer. Yes, universities teach C# and Java. A lot of them teach Python. Python's they're good languages. They help you learn some of the concepts for CS, but they don't really teach you what's going on in the machine. I went to school, I learned Pascal, Turbo Pascal, and then did some C++. That was the curriculum. But we also took courses in machine architecture, which were you learned how the microprocessor worked, you learned how all the system buses worked, and it was really interesting to me. And so I kind of get back to that with the C, where you're moving the bits. You can see the addresses in the machine. You decide exactly how you want your memory laid out. So that's the appeal for me. All right, so we're gonna do. Let's fill out our wall physics. Physical. do a wall ID, and again, walls will both block movement and sight. And then we're going to add that component to our wall. And I mentioned this in my earlier stream. You know, this seems like a lot of code to build a single entity in our game, and it is, but we're kind of assembling the different pieces, and very soon we're going to wrap this construction code in function. If it ain't C, it ain't for me. Okay. I don't know if I'm quite as extreme as you, Gun Games, but I definitely appreciate working at the lower level. And I wish that more people were exposed to it. Alright, so this is a lot of code to construct a game object, but you'll see in a minute when we move on to the map generation, we're going to add a helper function that will hide this from us. So we'll write it once, and it's it's wordy code for once, but we'll wrap it in a helper function and use the helper function from there on. Alright, so we've got our usage code. Now let's jump over to building out the implementation. So the first thing we need, again, we will map out some memory to hold all of our physical components. And we don't need to update create game object, because we're just basically initializing all the components to null. Younger generation doesn't have the patience to write code anymore. The instant progress, yeah. I see that a lot in the JavaScript world as well. Everything is there are so many dependencies to do functionality in JavaScript these days. There was an instance several months ago where one of the JavaScript components, somebody committed a change, and that particular component was used in thousands and thousands of websites, and it broke the internet. So that could have been prevented if if instead of just cobbling together a bunch of code that's opaque, or that maybe with the JavaScript you've got the source code. In this case, you include it as a dependency, it sucks in the source code. But just going through it, seeing what's there, and understanding it. So I have no problem with building, using libraries and all of that, but it's important to understand what's going on. Alright, so we are going to also build out our add component to game object to support physical component, and I always write my breaks first so that I don't forget to put them in. Alright, we're going to have a physical here, and to store this in our I don't think that Microsoft's gonna pull the plug on .NET. They've kind of bet the farm on it for at least the near future. And C#, I mean, C# is it's a decent language. It was built, or it was designed by Anders Slaughter's last name, Heilsberg, the guy that basically built Turbo Pascal and Delphi. So at least from a language design, it's got a decent pedigree. I feel like because I'm repeating this in each switch statement that there's, it's starting to get a little bit of code smell. I feel like there's a way to simplify this and abstract it out a little bit, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. I want to get things working. Remember, step 1, get things working, and then step 2, get things working quickly or in an optimized fashion. So we're going to set our object ID to the object ID that was passed in to us. Yes, 100% OO, and that is my primary beef with Java as well. Java is over-engineered in my opinion, and it leads to overly verbose code. That's just my opinion. Alright, so we're going to do blocks site. Oops, that's not right. This is our comp data. Casting our comp data to a physical structure. New blocks movement. Okay, so, and then we're going to do object components to the student. And again, this was our error before. We want this to, our assigning phys, which is a pointer to physical, into our components array, which is an array of pointers. What else? We need to add some cleanup in our destroy. And get component for game object. That's still a one-liner. Yes, I have heard of Handmade Hero. He's actually partially Casey Tori is partial inspiration for doing this stream. He's inspired a whole handmade movement. There's a handmade network now. If you Google handmade network, there's a bunch of you'll find links to a ton of projects that are quote unquote handmade, which means that the developers focus on understanding every bit of the code. Yeah, I started watching him when he started it. I think it will be 2 years ago in November. Or is it a year ago? This coming November. I think it'll be. It's just a year. But yeah, I mean, and he's like, I hope to be as good at C as he is someday. You know, as you can tell, I'm very rusty at C. I haven't written a ton of C code, but part of the impetus for this project is so that I can get better at C. Because once I finish this classic roguelike, which I've scoped to be fairly simple as roguelikes go, I'm going to immediately take the knowledge that I've gained and roll it into a more serious, bigger game project. Probably another roguelike. But it's still up in the air a bit. Alright, so we've built out our physical component, and we are adding it to our objects over here. So what we need to do is actually incorporate can't tell if you're rusty or C. Yeah, definitely rusty. I've still got my handy dandy C reference guide for when I forget the most basic of syntax or standard lib functions. Yeah, I did. I wrote a lot of C++. I worked for a few years in the financial industry and did C++ coding there for portfolio management evaluation systems. And I'm going to date myself here, but that was like when the standard template library was it was new, and I think this. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think STL has already gone out of vogue. They're on to the next big thing, right? But I remember smart pointers were like the up and coming big thing, and now I think they're part of the language, part of C++ 11 or something. Bracket your case statements and break. Yeah, you know what? Actually, that's I should probably do that because that just gives it the extra level of scoping. Yeah, that's. So we've got our physical component now, and we would like to incorporate that. So in our movement code here, instead of just adjusting our player position, we should probably implement another quote-unquote system. And there's actually, we did specify that we would do a move component. I wonder if this is a good time for that. Let's write the code for that and see what it might look like. Let's do if oh, no worries, man. No. Writing your own code. Yeah. Cheers. What kind of stuff are you working on? Let's see. I think we want to do something like if let's get our parentheses right. Something like if can. Top-down zombie horde-like shooter. Oh, that sounds cool. Yeah, go for it. So, our player, which we don't have a reference to anymore, so what we want to do is apply the loop to the player pause and then see if that's valid. Not sure if we need a move. Oh yeah, go for it. Oh yeah, I think I've disabled links. I should fix that in the chat. I think temporarily. Let's see. So you got a top-down shooter. Cool. Cool. How far along are you? How long have you been working on that? I decided for my first project to not go the graphical route, at least initially, because that's just another level of work. How I rendered the text in the top corner of my stream. Talking about the top. Oh. SDR, yeah, the true type. Did you guys see a week or so? Nice. Well, this looks like you're making some good progress. For those of you, can I post a link? Yes, I can post it. So that's a link to Gun Games' work in progress. Yeah, I think I'm going with the ASCII interface for now, and then at the very end of this project, I think I might be able to have a bit of trickery and swap out the ASCII for some tiles, some graphical tiles, and kind of give it a little bit more graphical oomph. But that's down the road. First things first, let's get this thing working. So just do we define our new position. Player pause. SF. No, I haven't worked with that at all.
Untouchable and shining far, you scatter like the galaxies. You call me up when it gets late again.
So we're going to do player pause in this case. The X remains unchanged, and we'll do. Let's close this up. So. Then we can do something like if. Apply the movement. SFML, hold your hand too much. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with that.
Why am I lonely? Why am I lonely when you're here, right there beside me?
SFML.
Touching and holding.
Simple and fast multimedia library. Out of the box. Windows, Linux, Mac OS 10, and soon Android and iOS. So that's it's interesting. Multi-language. Cool. Well, I mean, competition is good, so seems to be somewhat of a competitor from SDL, so it'll keep those guys on their toes. So let's see if we can put some test code in there. Test against boundaries. We'll basically move our boundary tests there, and then also incorporate some of the physical component. So we can do have our player. Do have our player object. So I guess what we would do. We could replace. position component, the updated component, so we can do something like add component to game object. Add component is kind of a misnomer. So we're replacing or setting. Maybe we'll change our API to function name to be set component. But what we would do is we'd send in our player, and then we would send a component. In this case, it would be updating the position, and we would send in our position, and send in to that. So, seems reasonable. Otherwise, we just leave it as is for now. We may handle the can't move case by, playing a bump sound or doing something in the future, but yeah, I think that seems let's verify that our add component still, so we take the game object, we take the component, and then component's data. So in this case, we grab a reference into position comps and cast that, and basically copy the values into. So we're essentially overwriting the data there, which is fine. There isn't any memory leakage that was going to happen. Do I play any games? Oh yes. I try to play fewer games these days because the more games I play, the less I have time to code. But right now I play Hearthstone and I play Rocket League. Those are my two primary time sucks as far as games go these days. How about you? What games do people play here? Alright, so I think our add component, I don't see a memory leak that's going to happen here, so I think we're okay with leaving this code intact and maybe just changing the name of our function so it's a bit. I think I'm getting a little type A here. A lot of strategy games. Stellaris and Total War Warhammer. I saw some Let's Play videos of that. That game looks epic. Waiting for Mafia 3, huh? Minecraft. Yes, I've played lots and lots of Minecraft. So. That's a favorite as well. Haven't played much recently, but yeah, Minecraft is one of those games that I was talking about it on stream a bit earlier. If you get bored with one flavor of Minecraft, there's such a great modding scene and all the extensions that you can get. I mean, you can turn it into a completely different game. You can't do vanilla version anymore. See, with the modding scene, there are some mods that are amazing, and there are some mods that will turn your computer into essentially a inert chunk of metal. With, no regard to memory management or processor speed or any of that stuff. But there's some pretty awesome mods out there as well. So I mean, take the good with the bad. Yes, Rocket League. One of the reasons I like, you'll notice something about the games, Hearthstone, Rocket League. They are games that generally you can play a single game of in about 10 minutes, because I don't have, as much as I'd like to, I don't have hours-long blocks of time. I have to carve those out for things like this, but they don't come very often, and so I make use of the time that I do get, which is more often in 10 to 20 minute chunks. So I can get in a couple games. Alright, so let's just leave it add component at this point. Play the semantic game quite yet. It's just Mr. Love Pickle, thank you for the follow. Thanks for joining us. Alright, so let's convert the rest of this movement code and then try this thing out. Well, of course, we first have to implement can move, but I think I'm happy about that, what that usage looks like. So use some copy pasta. Rstat1, thanks for the follow. Alright. So with the copy pasta, you always have to be extra careful, making sure you go back in and clean everything up appropriately. So we're still going to do, so this would be a case, gun games, when scoping with the braces would be a big plus, because I think we're going to get a compiler error here if I leave this code as is. We'll test it, and then we can see if we can put the braces in. Player pause here, we're going to do, this is our down, so y plus 1. And we'll save this for putting into our can move. In this case, we're moving left, so it's going to be x minus 1 and leave y intact. Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah, I enjoy watching the programming streams as well. I'm so glad that Twitch has now, just this week, added the /programming channel. I think it's a good start to bringing more than just game streams onto the platform. I hope that they continue down that road, and I'd like to. I can see why they have everything kind of everything that's not a game kind of lumped into creative. It certainly helps with if you're doing browsing, creative is always somewhere near the top because it aggregates the viewer counts. But I'd really love to see. I don't know if there's a way they can do this on the programming channel, have it be, have it show all of the streamers that are programming, and instead of it saying playing at creative, have it be, in the stream title, have it say that you're programming or you're doing game dev. But they are making good strides, so I'm happy so far. All right, right, and we're gonna add to one to X, and let's comment out this stuff. There was a programming chat, but they removed it. Oh, programming channel. Really, there was. I didn't know that. How long ago was that? I'm guessing that they probably removed it because the viewer counts were very low, but I would imagine that since then, I've seen a rise in the numbers. I've kind of watched the game dev or the programming sub channels or whatever you want to call them under creative. I think those numbers are only going up, so maybe it has to reach some critical mass before it becomes a real channel. But hopefully we'll get there. Let 'em Dare channel, that would be cool. Let 'em Dare is just, that happens a couple times a year, right? That's not a continuous thing. We'll come and clean up these comments in a bit, but for the moment, let's build our Ken moon. And what did I say? I was passing to that. I believe it was just the Newtons. Okay. And I believe that was okay, yes. Oh, new pause. Oops. I see a problem already. This should not be a pointer. This is actually struct that we're stack, so featuring more dev channels. Yeah, on the homepage. Yeah, and they've actually the programming channel is, at least for their launch week, they've got quite a good lineup of for channel programming in terms of the streams that are scheduled. It looks like there were several conferences. Today was Ruby Day, so they were streaming Ruby talks, and when I tuned in, there was something from like an old Ruby Conf. So I don't think Ruby Conf is happening this weekend. And then yesterday was Golang, and I'm not sure if their conference is happening. But what I totally missed until about a half an hour after things ended, there was a Roguelike convention. I think it was in San Francisco. It was a one-day thing, and they had a ton of talks from a bunch of really cool people doing cutting-edge roguelike programming. So they had the guys they had the brothers that are responsible for Dwarf Fortress. They had Josh G, who is building a super cool modern roguelike called Cogmind. You should check it out if you haven't seen it. It is the most beautiful ASCII art I've seen in a roguelike. It's the animated ASCII art. It's glorious. I hope to be able to do something like that someday. But it's called Cogmind, C-O-G Mind. Definitely check it out. But they had a whole roguelike convention yesterday, and I totally missed it. if you're interested, they do have the stream. I was watching some of it last night. They recorded the whole thing, or they live streamed the whole thing, and you can find it on Twitch. And hopefully they'll post it up to YouTube at some point. Let me see if I can. See if I can find it. Put the link up because it was pretty cool to see. Okay, I think I got it. Yep. Okay. It's Roguelike Con, so... I can't tell. I think that's the link. And so it's like a 6 or 8 hour stream. That there's lots of fast forwarding through because they, as they swapped out the different speakers and everything, there's some dead time. But I watched the Dwarf Fortress talk. I watched Josh G's talk, and some of the others. It's some good inspiration there. There were several talks just on the history of the whole roguelike genre. Alright, so I corrected my pending pointer error. And we're going to pass that whole struct in. It gets passed by value. So, what we're going to do, I should have grabbed this code. Just dump some of this. Alright, so what we're going to want to do in our can move testing is we're going to want to still going to want to test against the edges for now. This will become irrelevant very soon when we box our player in to our dungeon, but for now it's an open world. They can wander right off the edge, die, and by die I mean crash our program, so that's no good. So for now we'll guard against it. So greater than or equal to 0. Test against 4 different. So we've got if our x is greater than or equal to 0, and then our X is. Sublime Text does that. When you pop down the mouse cursor, it puts it into insert. I need to fix that. It's a setting. But it's okay. We want it less than column. Let's put this one. And our Y needs to be between 0 and needs to be less than those as well. Okay, so that handles these. Defaulted to false. And return node. Alright, so if the move is still in the boundaries of our screen, the next thing that we need to test is we actually need to incorporate the physical component that we just built out. So let's do that. And so basically we want to make sure that the position that we want to move into doesn't block movement. So we can actually add it just as another test, but I think since the rest of that stuff's going to be going away soon, I'm going to just have it as a nested if for the time being, and then we can remove the outer if at some point. So if pause, we're going to need to get the physical component that corresponds to no, you know what? So we don't have the physical component. So what we need to do is we need to loop through our known physical components and see if any of them are at the XY position that we want to move to. So, and we're still starting our loop at 1. We need to fix that so that we can use the zeroth X. That's on the list, on the to-do list. In fact, we'll fix that right after we get this stuff to work. But that might bleed into tomorrow. We'll see. It's getting a bit late, and programming with a tired brain leads to really stupid errors. Alright, so we're going to loop through all of our physical components and see if any of those is at, if it blocks movement, then we want to follow that back to the object. I think perhaps we might want another function that says, given a position tell me what object is there. An object. But we can work it out. I wonder if it makes sense to start with the various positions.
It's been too long, too many wrongs.
Let's,
What have I done?
since we've got, with our current implementation, since we know that each object kind of maps across the various components that it contains, and it matches via index, we can cheat a little bit. Sure. I guess we can cheat a little bit at this point. Let's just loop through the various positions and look for a match on our X and Y positions.
Don't be so distant. Don't be so distant. So distant.
30 is greater than 0, right? Which means that it's a valid component. I can check the X.
Take it back just for one night. Take all the wrongs and pretend that we're all
And since the logic will short circuit if any of these fails, since we're doing AND, if this fails, we'll just bail out of the F and we'll do the subsequent tests. Our position is just X and Y. Alright, so if position entity that we found is a valid entity, or is a valid component, and its X and Y values match the values of the position that we're trying to move into, what we need to do is check the physical component that corresponds to that game object. So grab the physical. At the I position and test that. Let's just skip this bit and just check it directly when it's in the Alright, so if block's movement is false for that particular then move. It's true. So right now I think perhaps we should start this the other way, because there could be more than one. There could be objects stacked. Although I guess if any of them block movement, you have stacked objects. I think for the sake of this, I think that's a safe assumption. So if we find anything in that space that we're going to need to reverse this. We want to assume that the movement is possible, unless we discover otherwise. That's what we're going to assume the move is allowed. Just do a bunch of tests here. If we're in the boundaries, through our tests, otherwise we immediately fail because we're outside the maps of the world. If we're in our map, loop through our objects that have position. If the position matches the position that we move to, then we check and see if the physical component blocks movement. If that's true, then the movement is false. Otherwise, the move would be allowed. And again, if we're off the boundaries of the map, that is not allowed. Alright. It seems reasonable to my tired brain. Let's see where that gets us. I think we, as I alluded to before, I have a builder. Yes, new pause redefinition. So, gun games, I don't know if you're back with your food yet, but here is a case where those braces are not only just like a coding preference, but this is actually they have a useful value as well. They provide scoping. So what we can do is if we wrap this stuff here, now how do you do your, let's see, how do you do your indentations in that case? Is that what they look like? I guess that works. Oh my goodness. Fat fingering it tonight. Let's see. Alright, so now we've scoped each braces in C to find a new scope, the local scope. So we should be able to compile this. Excuse me. Let's go away. Yep, so now we're building. And let's see what I've got. Oh, got caps lock on. Alright, so got our game here, and let's test our boundary moves. Okay, we still can't get the map. Oh, we've got an off by 1 error here because we can't quite get all the way to the bottom. Fix that. And we have an off by 1 error. So, but the big question is, can we walk through all this? And we cannot. It's perfect. Pushing down, going left, up. All right, so our immovable objects, or objects that prevent movement through them, work. The physical component appears to be working, so let's fix the off by 1 issue. And I think if we fix that up, I think I'm going to call it an evening after that and call it a success. So this code should be okay where we're setting our new desired position. So it's going to be so yes, there's where the off by 1 is. So before I was using this code before I applied the movement transformation. So I needed to have this -1, but since the movement has already theoretically been applied to this position, this is the position that I want to move into, I don't need that. I just need to make sure that it's less than our num calls and that should fix up our let's head down. Yes, we can get all the way to the bottom now, and all the way to but no further. Perfect. All right, it's encouraging. Love it when a plan comes together. Okay. I think with that success, we can definitely check this off of our to-do list. We've got our, well, okay, so world representation, we don't have our map and tiles. Maybe we've got some world state representation. We don't have the map and tiles yet. But I'm going to mark that off anyway, with the next step in the process being our simple dungeon level generator. However, it's getting late here, and I've got an early morning, so I'm going to be lame and call it a night. It's a successful night. We started by fixing the bug that I had in my stream earlier, which was a pointer manipulation error. And then we proceeded to add in another component into our entity component system, which was our physical component. And then we exercised that component by adding a wall that is impassable and building out this can move system. Again, this would be another example of a system, quote unquote system in the entity component system. It's a function that applies logic to the entities and components. And so we were able to successfully test that giving an object a physical component has an effect in our world. So I'm going to call it for the evening. Thank you for watching. If you would like to see previous streams, archives are on YouTube. If you have any questions or comments, hit me up on Twitter at PDCodes. And again, the source code, I will be committing the source code momentarily for tonight's stream. All the latest source code is up on GitHub. Feel free to check it out, play along at home. And if you want to get stream notifications for the next time I stream, hit that follow button. I'd appreciate it. And I will likely stream again tomorrow evening, probably around 8 p.m. Pacific. So I hope to see you there. Thanks for watching.